Hi folks, and welcome back to another fly tying tutorial. What you see in the vise is my version of a Leggy Owl. So without further ado, let's get into it. The hook in the vise then is a Hanak H333 barbless hook. This one's at size 10, it's on a fine wire and it's finished in black nickel. The thread I'm going to be using today is from Simplify. It's the Nano Silk at 50D and it's white, as you can see. So first thing we're going to do, as always with the Nano Silks, I'm going to add a tiny little spot of super glue to the shank of the hook, and then I'm going to get some silk onto that super glue. Now I'm not going to spread this down the body like I usually do with the super glue. I'm going to come back up to the top here and then I'm going to remove my rat's tail. Next then I want to add in my wire rib, and what I'm using is from Simplify. It's 0.01 black wire and I'm going to catch that in just at the top of the fly here. Now before I come any further down, I'm just going to add a little bit of wax to my thread just to help bind that wire to the shank of the hook. Now I'm going to come all the way down, and I'm now using my wire rib like I would use my rat's tail, just to get that bed of thread all the way down and round the bend of the hook, and I'm fairly happy with that. Now I can see I've still got a little bit of wax on my thread. I'm just going to add a little bit more. Next then I'm going to add my body material, and what I'm using again, it's from Simplify. It's called Swiss straw, and when it comes off kind of in a bit of a mess. You need to do quite a bit of work with it. I've already got a piece prepared here, and as you can see I've cut a small slither V-like at the bottom to catch in my tag end. I'm going to come back a turn. I'm going to come round, grab that in, and that's the reason I added the wax, just to grip that Swiss straw. Now as I come back up the shank, I want to create a very small taper. Not much, it will not take long, but just a little taper up to the thorax area. And I'm going to do that. Now initially you need to get quite a tight wrap in at the base, and then what you want to do is bring it round in overlapping turns. Now it's quite a delicate material, the old Swiss straw, so you've got to be careful not to put too much pressure on it, and you do get a particular effect with this material rather than just using yellow thread, which is what I used to use for this pattern in the past. Don't get me wrong, it worked just as well, but I just wanted to try something a little different. The winter's the time to be getting all your dry fly boxes and your buzzers. Flies that take a bit of time, now's the time to be tying them. You don't want to be at the vise the night before a trip tying dry flies and trying to get coats of varnish on buzzers dry. That's not good. So next I'm going to catch that in a couple of turns, and then I can come in with my scissors and just take away my waste. Now I'm going to put in several extra turns, as when I bring up my rib I'm going to use the rotary function on my vise so that I can just see that I'm getting a nice even turn. Now it's not so much of a problem when you're using straight shanked hooks, but I find when you're using these curved hooks it can be a bit of an issue trying to get nice even turns, and that's where the rotary function really comes into its own. So I'm just going to adjust that slightly, and then all the way up. And usually when I get it right, my thread starts to come undone from my extra turns and it comes to meet the wire. On this occasion, I obviously put too many turns in. I'm going to catch that in now. 2 or 3 turns, a couple of turns in front. Holding your thread, you can then twist away your wire. Now at this point, I could probably carry on tying the fly, but what I like to do is I don't want the wire rib, once I've caught a few fish with the fly, I don't want the wire rib to move up and down the body. So I'm just going to add the thinnest of layers of UV resin. You'll hardly notice it. And this is just to solely protect the rib. And it's only a little bit of a protection, because once the teeth get into the body, it's going to cause irreplicable damage to the fly. Struggling over my words today. So just give that adequate time to cure. Okay, so I'm fairly happy that'll be okay. Next, I'm going to come in and I'm going to use some pre-tied legs. Now, I used to always just tie my own, but as I've gotten older, I've realised that life's just too short. So what I'm going to do is bend them out 90 degrees from the stalk and rip them away. I've got about half a dozen here. I've picked about half a dozen strands off. And I want to come in, split them if you can, half one side of the shank and half the other, and then just get them to where you'd like them to sit. I don't want them too long on this pattern. Catch it into place. Then what I can do is lift this up and simply trim away the waste there. Tidy that up underneath and then come back up onto the top. Now again, I'm going to add a little bit of wax to my silk, and what I'm going to use next is from Troutline. This is the Ultra Select CDC. Again, when I was a younger man, I would get all my shooting friends to send me bags of CDC, and I would spend hours and hours of time going through the CDC to get the best ones. Now I know that everything I take out of this packet is going to be perfect, and I'll show you that wide, and if I show it up to the camera you can see much better how good the quality is of the CDC, and that's important for your dry flies. Now I've stacked together 4 CDC plumes, and what I want to do is make it about the length of the shank. And that's slightly long. I'm just going to try it again, and that's bang on that time. So grabbing the wing, I'm going to get a pinching loop in, and then I just want to check your side. I don't want any fibres dropping below the shank. And once I'm content, I can just come in and tie that in. Okay, next I'm going to pull this up, and I want to just leave approximately 2 or 3 millimeters at the front. Now to finish the fly off, I'm going to use good old-fashioned Troutline Boosted Natural. It's still one of my favourite dubbins. I use this for pretty much all my flies that require a bit of squirrel dub. Unfortunately, Andrew's a hard man to track down anymore, so I use this very sparingly. So I'm going to dress that up to the thorax area, get 2 or 3 turns, and then at this point I'm going to come in with my thumb and forefinger in my left hand, pull everything back out the way, and then before finishing the fly I'm going to add a little touch of UV resin. Especially with CDC, the last thing you want to be doing is coming in with a needle afterwards to try and finish your fly off, because you'll get varnish or resin or whatever it is you're using to finish the fly all over the CDC, and you do not want that. Just make sure that's tied in. I've lost my torch. There it is. And then once that's secured, I can come in with the blade of my scissors and trim that away. Now if you were of a mind to, you can use a dubbing needle or a brush just to pick out some of that thorax dubbing, just to give it that scruffier look. And there you have the Leggy Owl. I hope that's been of some use to you, and I'll see you all next time.